Name's Alex. Alex Moreno, 22. I grew up in a place where nobody had anything, and everybody wanted something. My mom cleaned houses until her back gave out. Dad? Gone before I turned 10. I had friends, but most of them either got caught or disappeared. Me? I found my own way. First time I tried it, it wasn't even planned. Just me, scrolling Airbnb, looking for a warm place to crash for the night. And I saw it. This fancy little loft in the good part of town. Key in a lockbox, no face-to-face, no neighbors. It was too easy. And when I walked in, there it was. New iPad, camera bag, wristwatch with a gold band sitting on the counter like it was asking to be taken. So I took it, all of it. And the world didn't stop. Nobody knocked on the door. No sirens, just silence. I checked out the next morning, vanished like smoke. That's when I knew, there's a game here, and I can win it. But what I didn't know is that every game ends, and one day someone else plays back. You gotta understand, this wasn't some Ocean's 11 type of thing. No suits, no hackers, no getaway vans. Just me, a prepaid phone, a couple fake IDs, and a decent eye for vulnerability. I kept it simple. Make a burner Airbnb profile. Use a gift card to pay. Pick listings with self-check-in, no cameras, and hosts that didn't ask questions. It's crazy how many people just want your money and don't even care who you are. Once I got in, I had one rule. 2 hours tops. Check the closets, bedside drawers, bathroom cabinets. I wasn't looking for piles of cash. Those don't exist outside movies. But pills, electronics, watches, spare keys, wallets. People are messy, and messy people are gold mines. I kept a duffel in the closet. Black, soft, no logos. I'd fill it slowly, methodically like a surgeon. No drawers left open. No mess. I made it look like nobody had ever been there. Then I'd leave the key on the counter, walk out, and disappear into a different part of the city. Pawn shops, online resellers, a guy I knew who sold high-end stuff on Telegram. They didn't ask where it came from, and I didn't tell. I wasn't rich, but for the first time in my life, I had control. Cash in my pocket, options, power. But power gets lonely. You stop trusting people, even yourself. Still, I kept going, because the moment you stop, that's when you feel how empty you really are. The first job sticks with you, not because it's the biggest or the smartest, but because it rewires something inside you, changes how you see doors, windows, people. I still remember the smell of that first place. Lemon-scented cleaner, a little too clean, like the host was trying too hard. It was a studio, small, modern, way out of my league. White couch, tiny plants in glass jars, a bookshelf full of travel guides. I walked in like I belonged there, closed the door behind me, and for a second, I hesitated. This wasn't mine. None of it was, but I needed it to be. I started slow. Kitchen drawers first. Found an envelope with maybe $40 in ones. Then the bedroom. Found an Apple Watch under a pillow. Some perfume. A pair of gold earrings and a dish by the mirror. My hands were sweating. My heart was thudding so loud I could hear it in my throat. But the fear? It was like a high. It made me sharp. Every sound outside made me freeze. A car door slamming. Footsteps in the hallway. But no one knocked. I took everything small enough to hide. Left the rest. Before I left, I looked back. At the empty bed, the stillness of the place. And for a split second, I felt something twist in my gut. Guilt? Maybe. But it was buried under adrenaline. I walked out into the night. Cool air hit my face like a baptism. Nobody followed me. No alarms. Just quiet. Later, when I sold the earrings and watch for a few $100, I couldn't stop smiling. It wasn't about the money. It was about the rush, the silence, the feeling that I had outplayed the system. And I told myself, one more, just to see if I could do it again. Spoiler alert. I did. I could have kept working solo. It was cleaner that way. Less risk, no one to screw it up. But loneliness, it's a weird kind of pressure. It sneaks up on you when you're counting cash in a dark room, wondering if you even exist outside the job. That's when I met Carlos. He wasn't in the game, not yet. We bumped into each other outside a pawn shop. I was leaving. He was arguing with the owner about a busted phone. Tension in his shoulders, sharp eyes, fast hands. Guy had the kind of energy that says, "Put me in, I won't flinch." We started talking. Over cheap coffee, greasy burgers, shared stories. I tested him. Told him a half-truth, that I had a side hustle involving fake rentals. He didn't laugh. He leaned in. "People got more than they need," he said. "They leave it lying around. Somebody's got to teach him. That was his logic, not mine, but it made things easier. First time we worked together, I booked the spot. Carlos was backup, kept watch outside while I cleaned it out. We moved fast, efficient. No drama, split the cash 50/50ths. No arguments, no guilt. He was slick, could talk his way into or out of anything. When we started hitting 2 apartments a week, he suggested we scale. Bigger places, better neighborhoods, less junk, more value. I should have seen the red flags, the arrogance, the recklessness in his grin when he said, "Let's make real money now." But I didn't care. I just didn't want to be alone in it anymore. And for a while, we were good. Too good. We started picking them differently. Not just the apartments, the people. Carlos had a way of reading listings like they were open books. "Look at this one," he'd say, pointing at some profile. "Single mom, new to town, kids' drawings on the fridge. She won't even notice the camera's gone until Monday." At first, I hesitated. I told myself we weren't hurting anyone. They had insurance. They'd get it all back. Carlos? He didn't hesitate at all. "Come on, man. They got more than we do. You think she's gonna starve because we took her tablet? She's fine." And I wanted to believe that. We hit one guy who looked like he worked nights. Apartment was empty by 6 every evening, filled with unopened Amazon boxes. Carlos even took the microwave. I laughed at the time. Now, it just makes me sick. Another time, we hit an older woman's place. You could tell she lived quiet. Bible on the nightstand, crocheted blanket on the couch, photo of her and a dog in a cheap little frame. I remember picking up that frame and putting it back down. Couldn't do it. Carlos didn't care. He took the whole drawer beneath it. And that night I didn't sleep well, didn't feel the high, didn't count the cash with a smile. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about that dog, about that woman coming home to find her place just violated. But I kept going, because stopping meant facing it, and I wasn't ready for that yet. Carlos would say, "Guilt is for people with choices." And maybe he was right. Or maybe that's just what we told ourselves, to keep from seeing what we were becoming. It was bound to happen eventually. We hit this place downtown, a high-rise, keyless entry, clean building with a view of the river. It felt too good to be true. The host was some mid-level tech guy, judging by all the gadgets lying around. VR headset, smart speaker, drone box still unopened. Jackpot, right? We got sloppy. Carlos was in the bedroom stuffing chargers and watches into the bag. I was in the kitchen, prying open a drawer that felt suspiciously locked. We were moving fast, too fast. Then we heard it. A knock. Not at the front door. At the apartment next to us. We froze. Then, a voice. Clear, loud. "You got that camera set up, right? I'm calling management." I dropped what I was holding. Carlos mouthed something I won't repeat. We bolted, down the stairs, past the security desk, out the back exit. No time to check if we were on camera. No time to see who saw what. We ditched the bag 2 blocks away. Not everything. Just the stuff that would scream felony. For the first time since we started this game, I felt hunted. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Carlos kept saying, "Relax, bro, people bluff, cops never come that fast." But I couldn't relax. All night I kept checking the news, forums, anything. Looking for a story. 2 suspects caught robbing rental unit downtown. Nothing. But the silence didn't help. It made the fear worse. I didn't sleep, didn't eat. The next morning, Carlos texted, "Next one's lined up. Friday, you in?" And I said yes. Why? Because fear's addictive too. Just like the money, just like the power. You keep chasing that edge, even when you know you're standing 1 toe away from the fall. Carlos disappeared for a bit after that. Said he had family stuff, which probably meant trouble. A debt, a girl, or someone we'd robbed catching up to him. At first I felt relieved. Less noise, less risk. No one to push me when I wanted to slow down. But the quiet didn't last long. After a week, I was back scrolling listings. Cheap places, quick bookings. The kind of host who didn't ask for anything but payment up front. I told myself I'd play it safe. Just 1 job, maybe 2. No electronics, nothing flashy, just cash, meds, gold if it showed up. But it was different without Carlos. The silence hit harder. No one to watch the door. No one to joke with on the ride back. No one to say, "We nailed it," with that cocky grin. I was still good, maybe better, precise, efficient. But the job started to feel colder. I remember one apartment, a 2nd-floor walk-up, old carpet, dusty air. The kind of place you can smell before you open the door. There was a note on the fridge. In pencil, it said, "Please feed the cat. He's old, but he still gets hungry." I didn't see the cat. Maybe it was hiding. Maybe it was gone. But I stood there staring at that note way too long. And for a second, I felt like the bad guy in someone else's movie. I still took what I came for, still locked the door behind me. But that night, I didn't count the money. Didn't message my buyers. I just sat in the dark looking out the window, wondering what it would feel like to go a whole week without lying to anyone. Wondering if I still knew how. It was raining. Not the soft kind. The kind that drums on your hood and soaks your shoes in 5 minutes flat. Gray sky, empty streets. One of those nights where the city feels like it's giving up. I booked the place last minute. No profile pic. No ID verification. Just a stolen gift card and a burner email. It was a ground floor unit in a duplex on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. Old blinds, yellow porch light flickering, and a number stenciled in fading paint. 17B. I stood outside in the rain. Hood up, heart steady. Didn't feel nervous. Didn't feel much at all. It had become routine by then. I was clockwork. Key was in a lockbox. Code worked on the first try. I stepped inside. Took in the musty air, the dull hum of an old fridge, the creak of wood under my feet. Everything was as expected. Sparse furniture, no security system. Kitchen light flickered when I turned it on. I got to work. Drawers, cabinets, found a small safe already unlocked. Inside, some bills, a pocket knife, and a badge. My stomach twisted. It wasn't a cop's badge. Not officially. It was old, worn. Private security? Retired maybe? I stared at it for a few seconds too long. Then put it back. Too risky. Too weird. I moved on. And that's when I heard it. The sound of a key turning. Slow. Deliberate. The front door creaked open. I froze in the hallway, half hidden by the corner of a wall. Watching the door swing open like a scene from a nightmare, a man stepped in. Tall, older, wearing a soaked raincoat. Didn't rush. Didn't speak. He just stood there for a second, then looked straight at me. Our eyes locked. And I knew he wasn't surprised. It was like time folded in on itself. One moment I was just a shadow in the hallway. The next, I was a kid again, standing in a doorway I wasn't supposed to open, staring at a man I hadn't seen in years. "Alex," he said. One word. Quiet, measured. No shock, no anger, just tired recognition. And me? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't believe the face I was seeing. James Moreno, my father, my ghost. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, thinner, but the eyes were the same. Sharp, cold, always calculating. I hadn't seen him since I was 17. We hadn't talked since I told him I was figuring things out. He never asked what that meant. Never called, never came looking. But here he was, in the middle of the very life I built without him. And somehow, I'd just broken into his house. He didn't reach for anything, didn't move, just looked at me, looked through me. "You chose this?" he finally asked. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. All those justifications, they vanished like smoke. "I didn't know," I started. He raised a hand, palm out. Didn't want to hear it. "I'm not going to call anyone," he said. "Not tonight." And then, like it cost him something to say it. "But I want you gone. Now." I nodded, slow. Didn't argue. Didn't explain. Just walked past him, out into the rain, and felt it hit my face like punishment. The door closed behind me. And the silence that followed? It wasn't peace. It was a goddamn funeral. I didn't go far. I walked a few blocks in the rain, then found an old bus shelter and sat down. Soaked, shivering, hands clenched, jaw locked, stomach in knots. I didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't even curse the sky. I just sat there, let the cold do its thing, let it numb everything that was burning inside me. It wasn't just shame. It was deeper than that. It was knowing he saw me, really saw me. Not the version I'd sold people, not the smooth talker, the hustler, the guy with a plan, just his son, a thief, in his hallway. He didn't yell, didn't throw punches, didn't call me a failure. But somehow that made it worse. Because silence? Silence says everything you don't want to hear. I kept replaying the look in his eyes. It wasn't hate. It was disappointment carved into stone. Like he'd expected this all along. And the worst part? Maybe he had. My mind was spinning. I thought about every excuse I'd ever used. Every time I said, "I'm just trying to survive." Every time I told myself, "I'm not hurting anyone." But when the person you thought abandoned you, looks at you like you abandoned yourself. There's nowhere left to run. I stayed out until dawn, didn't sleep, didn't move. I was a shadow under a flickering light. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to disappear. I just didn't know what the hell to do next. I went home, if you could even call it that. Tiny basement room in a building that smelled like mold and cigarettes. Mattress on the floor. Blankets that hadn't been washed in weeks. A cracked phone screen lighting up the silence. I stood there soaked and hollow, staring at the mess I lived in like I was seeing it for the first time. This was it. This was what I'd built. A kingdom of shadows and pawn tickets. Empty drawers, fake names, locked phones. I sat on the mattress, hands buried in my hair, breathing like I'd just run a marathon, and I saw myself. Not in a mirror, in my mind. In that hallway, face to face with my father. Caught, exposed, nothing left to hide behind. I tried to think of all the reasons. The trauma, the poverty, the excuses, but none of them felt big enough anymore. I picked up the phone, typed out a message to Carlos. "I'm out. Simple, final." He replied 5 minutes later. "Lame. Don't come crying back when you're broke." I didn't answer. I couldn't even look at the bag of gear in the corner. The watches, the pills, the memory cards. It all looked stupid now, like a costume I didn't need anymore. That night I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just sat there, watching the first light creep in through the basement window, and I waited. I didn't know for what. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe courage. Maybe just the guts to face him again. But whatever it was going to hurt. And for the first time, I was ready to feel all of it. I showed up at his place around noon. No warning. No plan. Just a knot in my stomach and a head full of apologies that didn't know how to come out. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray, like it hadn't decided whether to forgive me or not. I stood in front of the door for a full minute, hand raised, not knocking, just breathing. Then, I did. He opened the door like he knew I was coming. Didn't look surprised, didn't move aside either. I said, "Can I come in?" He waited, then nodded once, stepped back. Same apartment. Same smell of old coffee and dust and silence. I sat on the edge of a chair. He didn't sit. I started slow. "I've been doing this for a while," I said. "I rent places, fake names, I take what I can carry, sell it, move on." He didn't say anything. I kept going. I told myself it was survival, that nobody got hurt. But I know that's not true. People trust, and I broke that. He crossed his arms, leaned against the wall, still no words. So I kept talking. Because once you crack, you either spill it all or choke on it. "I never wanted to be like this," I said, "but I didn't know how to be anything else." "You were gone. Mom was drowning. I got tired of waiting for life to get better." His jaw clenched, but his eyes, they didn't look angry, just tired. "I thought about you sometimes," I added. "Wondered if you'd be proud of me if I made it out. But I didn't make it out." I went deeper in. He finally spoke. "Why now?" Simple question. Felt like a punch. "Because last night, you looked at me like I wasn't even yours. And I don't blame you, but I can't carry that." Silence. Then he sat, right across from me. His voice was low, measured. "You think you're the first Moreno who's ever run from shame?" I looked up. He wasn't smiling, but something in his face cracked open. Like maybe, just maybe, he understood. He leaned back in the chair, arms folded again. Looked at me like he was seeing a blueprint he recognized. One he'd hoped wouldn't repeat, but knew it would. "You think I didn't see it coming?" he said. Voice low, steady, almost flat. "I knew you'd screw up. I just didn't know it would be like this." I swallowed hard, felt the words sink into me like broken glass. Not because he was wrong, but because he'd been waiting for me to fall. "That night I left," he continued, "I wasn't just walking out on your mom. I was walking out on the version of myself that would have ruined you faster if I stayed." He looked away for a second, jaw tight, then back at me. "But I guess I still ruined you anyway." I shook my head. Wanted to say no. Wanted to tell him I chose this, that I made my own mess. But the truth? His absence carved a hole I spent years filling with smoke. "You didn't ruin me," I said. "But you weren't there to stop me either." That landed. He didn't flinch, didn't argue, just sat in the quiet with me, letting the weight of it hang between us like fog. Finally, he stood up, walked to the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, took a long sip, then said, "You're not beyond fixing, Alex. But don't confuse a clean break with redemption." I looked up at him. "I'm not asking for forgiveness." "Good," he said, "because I'm not ready to give it." Brutal, honest. Exactly what I needed to hear. But, he added, if you're serious, if you're done being a ghost, then prove it. I nodded. Didn't speak. Didn't promise. Just stood. Looked him in the eyes. And for the first time in years, we saw something in each other that wasn't anger. It wasn't love either. Not yet. But maybe respect. Or the start of it. I didn't go back to that life. Not after that talk. Not after seeing my reflection in his face. I packed what little I had into a backpack. Left the rest behind. The burner phones, the fake IDs, the black duffel that used to make me feel powerful. I took a job on the loading dock of a furniture warehouse. Graveyard shift, minimum wage, heavy lifting, busted knuckles, aching back. But I showed up every night. Didn't lie. Didn't steal. Didn't disappear. No one there knew who I used to be. No one cared. And in a way that made it easier to just be. No mask, no hustle. Just sweat and silence. The first few weeks were the hardest. I'd walk past apartments and feel that old pull, that itch in my palms, the part of me that remembered where to look, what to take, how to vanish. But I didn't. Not because I was better, not yet, but because I'd finally felt what it was like to see myself through someone else's eyes, someone who once believed I could be more. I started eating regular meals, stopped sleeping with one eye open. I even called my mom, told her I was working nights, didn't tell her more. She cried anyway. Sometimes I'd pass by 17B. Never went back inside. Didn't want to. That part of me was dead now, buried under 1,000 tiny choices I had to make, day after day after day. It wasn't redemption. Not yet. But it was something close to real. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own life. I felt present. And that scared me more than anything. If you're hearing this, I'm not asking for pity. I'm not trying to rewrite what I did. I'm telling you because maybe, just maybe, you're standing where I was, thinking you've got it all under control, that the hustle is clean, the lines are blurry, that as long as no one dies, it's not real crime. But it is. Because the part you're stealing the most ain't the watch, ain't the laptop, it's yourself. Every lie, every fake name, every step you take deeper, you trade a piece of who you could have been. And if you go far enough, you don't even miss it anymore. Until one day, you walk into a place thinking it's just another job, and come face to face with the one person you never wanted to disappoint, and he looks at you like he's already seen this ending. I'm lucky. I got a chance most don't. Not a miracle. Not a happy ending. Just a moment. A window. 1 second of stillness that said, you don't have to keep going. I took that second. Ran with it. Still running. The shame doesn't go away. Not really. But it changes. Becomes a reminder. A bruise that teaches you how not to swing back. So yeah, I used to rob apartments. But today, I work nights, stack boxes, sleep light, call my mom. And when I pass by mirrors, I don't look away anymore.